Hello, Fairfax County Public Schools. This is Dr. Brabrand, your superintendent. Welcome this evening. We're glad to have you for another town hall on return to school. I'm so excited for this town hall because, as you know, the school board just voted a few days ago a unanimous vote to begin returning all of our students who want to return for in-person instruction starting next Tuesday through mid-March. We've been working for months with detailed plans about how to do this return to in-person learning and how to keep our students and staff safe. We want to answer your questions tonight about how we're going to provide for those students who are coming back for in-person learning, while also continuing to meet the needs of our students who will remain virtual for the remainder of the school year. It's great to have you all here tonight. One housekeeping note. We are still waiting for some of our interpreters to arrive, given the weather that's outside. We're hoping that they will arrive later this evening. And in fact, I understand they'll be here in just a moment to begin. So wanted to keep that equity lens as part of our conversation tonight. I have no information about weather this evening, and we're looking forward to having as least an impact of the weather as possible. So wanted to share that with you as well. But we're very excited today to recognize that in-person learning is beginning, and we know that virtual learning has not worked for many of our students. So it's exciting to really spend some time tonight with you to talk to people who are preparing for your children to return for in-person learning. And we have special honored guests with us here this evening. First of all, a kindergarten teacher from Colvin Run Elementary, Ms. Tawanya Scarborough. Great to have you here, Ms. Scarborough.
Thank you very much.
She's going to be talking about the work that she's done with concurrent teaching, which is the model that we'll be using as we return students to in-person instruction. We'll be talking to her in just a few moments. We also have Fran Lewandowski from our social worker team. Fran, it's great to have you here. I know you work at Lemon Road, and we're thrilled to have you here. And we'll be talking to you in just a few minutes. And also from our high school level, we have the principal of W.T. Woodson High School, Dr. Carlin Floyd, a true leader in her community and in Fairfax County Public Schools, who's joining us tonight. Good evening, Dr. Floyd. Great to see you. And we'll be talking to you soon about what that return to in-person learning looks like for secondary students. Before we begin with discussions with our honored guests and taking your calls and emails, I want to share a couple of highlights around our return to in-person learning. First of all, if you can look at the information coming up just now, this is our phased-in timeline for returning school students to in-person instruction. You can see that we've already brought back VHSL activities and co-curriculars at the high school level. We've also begun doing intervention cohorts at elementary, middle, and high school for those kids that need additional supports now to make sure that they end the year on a high note with success. We will start on next Tuesday, returning groups 1 through 4, select career and technical education kids, and special education students identified for those group 1 through 4 cohorts. We also, on February 16th, next Tuesday, whether virtual or in person, will have a new bell schedule for our elementary, middle, and high schools. Please work and reach out to your school principal, who should already have reached out to you, with your school's particular bell schedule. But we will have a new bell schedule for instruction as we begin to bring students back in person, and it will be the bell schedule whether the student is in person or virtual because of our concurrent model. You'll see that Group 5, our pre-K and kindergarten and special ed, return February 23rd. Grades 1 through 2 in early March, March 9th. Group 7, grades 3 through 6, March 16th. And Group 8 will come in 2 phases, our middle and high school kids, March 2nd and March 9th. Our middle and high schools will be busy scheduling orientation sessions for students that are new to the building, and we're going to do everything we can to make the return to students in person as warm and inviting as possible, even though we recognize school will not be exactly the same as it was pre-pandemic. We will have those school mitigation measures so that we can keep students and staff safe. I also want to share with you very quickly that our model is concurrent instruction. We'll be talking to Ms. Scarborough in just a minute. Students receive 2 days of teacher-led instruction in the school building and then 2 days of teacher-led instruction at home. Students who have selected virtual learning will receive all 4 days of teacher-led instruction while learning at home. And this model maximizes teacher-led instruction whether you're in person or coming and logging in virtually. It is the best model to make sure that we maximize teacher-led instruction for all of our students, both virtual and in person. We want to remind you, too, that our virtual folks, as we said, will have 4 days of teacher-led instruction while learning from home. And we're very happy about that, continuing that work. And I think we have one or more 2 slides just to show real quick. For our students coming in person, we'll talk to Dr. Floyd a bit more about this when we get to middle and high. Middle and high school students will be asked not to use their lockers, but they will be asked to bring in their backpacks and take backpacks home with them at the end of the day with the needed supplies that they have for school. Also, bus transportation has been a frequent question we're getting here at Fairfax County Public Schools headquarters. Parents will receive information about bus schedules prior to the start. Seating capacity will be reduced to allow for social distancing on buses. We will be reminding students an expectation to wear face coverings when riding the school bus. And students will be required to sit in seats as appropriately marked on the bus. There'll be bus stop information available at the school and in parent view. We'll continue to have our Here Comes the Bus app around school bus arrival information that we've had and debuted just a few years ago. I've already mentioned the new bell schedule, social distancing requirements on the school buses, and this will allow us to support students both virtually and in person. I believe that's it for our slides at this point, and now I'm so excited to welcome again Ms. Scarborough, you here. It's so nice to have you.
Thank you for inviting me this evening.
So we're really excited about students coming back, and you already had a chance to have students come back to school when you were doing the pilot program back in the fall. Tell me a little bit about the pilot program. What was it like? Was there anything that surprised you? And what advice do you have for parents as they prepare their youngest kids to return to in-person instruction?
So I think I will start by answering the parents first. Parents, I know that you are concerned and we understand your concerns, but I assure you that the students coming into the schools will be kept safe. They also will continue to experience the high quality instruction from day to day. They will also continue to have the opportunities to participate in all of the special area classes as well. Students that I've had thus far this school year, they are kindergarten students, ages 5 and 6, and they have done a remarkable job being able to adhere to not just the FCPS guidelines, but also the CDC guidelines as well. So I assure you that everything will go at better than you expect, and we are anxiously awaiting for your children to return back to school with us beginning on February 23rd for kindergartners.
Ms. Scarborough, what are some surprises from the pilot working with kindergartners? Anything that surprised you that you weren't expecting that could help either a parent or a staff member as they prepare to see young people again in their schools, particularly at the elementary level or that kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, first, second grade level?
You know, I think, Dr. Braybrand, one of the most surprising things was the fact that the children came to school and there was a seamless transition from being all virtual to now having the hybrid model. When they came to school, they were ready to learn. They were excited to be at school. And it felt just like your traditional first day of school. Wow. And just seeing them there and some of the little kids just looking up and saying, I'm so glad to be at school now. And we do have a classroom, or, oh, there's my name. So seeing that they do have actual places for their items, even though it's different from what we would traditionally do, knowing that they have their own special places to keep their things is very important. And it was very exciting to have the students back, and I'm looking forward to having them back with me once more.
Well, that's great, Ms. Scarborough. Let's take a phone call. Caller, welcome to the Return to School Town Hall. Welcome, caller. All right, we'll see. Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the town hall.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brabran, and to the educators who are sitting with you tonight. I really appreciate this town hall. I'm one of the parents who is proudly a part of the Open FCPS movement, and I want to bring to your attention, and this is really important to make this return to school very successful, but we have teachers, unfortunately, within the school system who during virtual learning are bullying students into not returning and are telling children to not want to come back for in-person learning. And parents are deeply distraught. And I would love a strong message from you tonight to please tell these teachers to not do this. This is not their place. Children need to be back in school, and I need the support from you and principals and the school boards and all the leadership to tell teachers to stop this outrageous behavior. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, caller. I really appreciate that. And one of the things in this pandemic is listening to all of our community, and there really have been different perspectives. And here's the one thing I'd like to tell the community this evening. There are occasions when all of us in this pandemic have shared and expressed things and wondered and then said, hey, did I say this the right way? Did I express this the right way? And I don't want to judge every one of our FCPS teachers by a comment that one teacher may have made with maybe the best of intentions to describe what school may look like, and it may look different, and it will look different in person, to then be characterized as bullying. Our teachers have worked very, very hard, and we want our teachers to be focused on good teaching as students return to in-person, and we want parents to have the choice to make the decision whether their students will remain virtually or to return in person. And so what I appeal to tonight to you and to all your colleagues, to our parents, to our teachers, is we need to give each other grace. We need to make sure that we're really respecting that there are different points of view, and we need to stay focused on our kids, whether they remain virtual or return in person, that they are safe, that we're getting them ready to learn and really ready to have as good a school year as possible under the circumstances that this pandemic has brought us. And the kids are watching us. So I know we continue to sometimes in this world right now be obsessed with social media, but we've got to spend time connecting with each other and bringing ourselves together and not finding ways to divide us all over again. We're at a moment now that is more full of hope for Fairfax County Public Schools students and staff and families, and we really need to use this moment to come together, and I'm sure we will, and I thank you for your call. Let's take another call. Caller, welcome to the Return to School Town Hall. Hi. Yeah, caller, if you could call back in and we'll try to take your call again. We were having some technical difficulties in receiving your call just a moment ago. Let's take another call. Caller, welcome to the Return to School Town Hall. Your call just a moment ago. Let's take another call. Caller, welcome to the Return to School Town Hall. All right, I think we're having some technical difficulties right now with the calls coming in. I'm going to take an email right now. And one of the questions from the email is, why don't you wait until all staff have both vaccines to open schools? I want to share very, very much here a key point. The Center for Disease Control, the CDC, never had the return to school for in-person instruction for any school district in the country to be directly linked with vaccinations. We were able to work in great partnership with Fairfax County Health Department and Inova, who've been great partners to help prioritize our FCPS teachers and staff to be prioritized for vaccinations. And we've been able to do that in a very, very rapid period of time. And we really will have many of our staff who chose to get the vaccination to be able to have had that vaccination. But it has not been tied to the return to school, nor has the CDC recommendation required it. What's most important is that the vaccination is just one more tool in the toolbox. The key are those 5 school mitigation strategies that we need to continue to have. Let's take one more phone call. Caller, welcome to the Return to School Town Hall.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Okay, thank you so much. So I was wondering if there had been given any consideration, particularly for the younger students who have IEPs, with allowing them to come in person 4 days a week, similarly to, I believe, may have been discussed for children whose parents work for FCPS. In order to kind of help bridge that gap, since the services that they've been receiving have been so different than any other school year.
Thank you for that call. And caller, we have had the opportunity working with families and parents to have some of our special education students coming in 4 days a week. Actually, we had that opportunity in the fall, and we are still looking at having that opportunity as we can and based on the needs of the kid here in the spring. I don't know, Ms. Scarborough, I know as you had kids in your pilot, you had general education kids and some special education kids. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the accommodations that we've made, including for kids that have IEPs as they return in person?
Absolutely. So in the classroom, my classroom specifically, we did have a combination of your general education children as well as children who did require special education support. And so for our for our children who needed the special education support, they did receive that support in person. So we did have our staff at our school who was able to provide the support in a safe environment and at a safe distance to meet the needs of the child's IEP.
Good, that's fantastic, that's fantastic. I want to go ahead and actually, Ms. Lewandowski, talk to you for just a minute. As we're talking about return to school, everybody is talking about the academic piece and getting kids ready for the instruction that is in person. But one of the things we have to acknowledge in this pandemic is there's a huge social emotional piece. We have all experienced, to varying degrees, the trauma of going through this pandemic. And it's affected different families and different students differently. What is the social worker doing? And I know we have them across all of our Fairfax County Public Schools. How are you all preparing for the arrival of students in person to connect with them and with their families to deal with some of those social emotional challenges that they may have?
Well, I mean, we are, part of our job is really connecting with families day after day. So we are working to maintain and strengthen the connections that we have with the kids and the families, seeing that as such an important component of their education.
What are some of the interventions that social workers are going to be able to do for students and families as kids return in person that we may not have been able to do as much before? I know we did some home visits even during the virtual, and I wouldn't call them home visits. I think they were called door visits where teams went out and connected outside the house. But what are some additional things that we're going to be able to do as students return in person?
Well, there's a possibility of working directly in a face-to-face way with children in a safe way, obviously. So that whole experience is, in an embodied way, is very much different than connecting with a child or a parent over through a screen. So just simply the fact of actually being face-to-face with a child or a youth or a parent will make a big difference.
You know, one of the things I know that we're looking at too is how to have student support plans in all of our schools as kids return. Some of that might be individual, but some of it might be small group. Are there some examples of some small group work that has happened at Lemon Road around helping social emotional needs of kids as you all are looking at kids returning for in-person?
Well, you know, to be honest, I think we've been doing a lot of work on student support plans in terms of engagement and attendance, and we're just now starting to think about, okay, who's coming back into the building, who's going to be with us, and who needs special attention. So we're just beginning that process of assessing, you know, who's going to need some extra TLC,
Good,
basically.
good. And we know students will start coming back next week. Some have been successful in the virtual environment and some have been struggling. And so it's going to be so important for you and your team to really come together and working with the teacher, reinforce good social emotional strategies in the classroom, but also have time for additional interventions that kids that may need some pullout and some additional time to really share what has gone on and help them now be resilient, which is what we do in Portrait of a Graduate, be goal-directed, resilient individuals. Hey, I'm back, I'm ready to learn. Some things are a little different, but I'm ready to really be back in person, connect with friends and with staff members. Let's take an email. One of the questions, how will recess for the kids that will be going back to school work? Ms. Scarborough, I think the recess question is going to have to go to you. Okay. What does recess look like at elementary school as we return to school in person?
So recess looks very differently. We still go outside. The children are actually now encouraged to bring in a personal item so that they have something that they can use that does not have to be shared with someone else. Also, when we do go outside, we are spaced out because the sidewalk distance tends to be the larger rectangles. And so the children have had a variety of items that they can use. We brought back lots of childhood-friendly games, brought back hopscotch. We've brought back just the regular sidewalk chalk. Making paper airplanes, having paper airplane competitions, how far can yours go, how high can it fly, and even incorporating a lot of the STEM activities in the recess period as well. We also have on our field, we have a soccer field in the back of our school. And so our principal and our assistant principal, along with the custodian staff, they went and they placed cones that were spaced out 6 to 10 feet apart. And then so the children can also go out on the field. And even for the kindergartners, they've learned how to play socially distanced from each other, but also still interacting with each other verbally.
Good. Well, it sounds like you're using all of the space at the school for recess.
Absolutely.
All
even
of your
on
outdoor
rainy days, we still manage to go outside. We just sit under the portico area.
Fantastic. Well, that's great. Let's take another phone call. Caller, welcome to the Return to School Town Hall.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Okay, thank you. So just as the CDC has said that vaccines are not tied to return to school, we've heard health officials advise us that 6 feet social distance is only required when possible or when plausible. And we've seen in Virginia now, Chesterfield County, Fauquier County, Henrico County have all flexed down that 6-foot rule to accommodate more kids in person more days. So my question is, with vaccines up and cases down and mask wearing, why can't FCPS ease up on that 6-foot rule to get our students in class more than 2 days a week?
Well, thank you very much, caller, for that question. You know, the 3-foot versus 6-foot discussion has been going on for some time, but let me be clear. The CDC clear recommendation and the Virginia Department of Health guidance still says that 6 feet is the ideal, as the state superintendent called it, the gold standard as we look at social distancing strategies. We are returning to school in person, and we are returning to school in person with the goal of trying to maintain 6 feet wherever possible. We certainly are going to continue to work with our health department and look at the guidance, and frankly, also look at the data around school districts that are returning with less than 6 feet as their standard. We are going to be measured, as you know, in our decision-making model about whether school remains open or returns to virtual based on the number of outbreaks that occur at the school. This level of school impact matched up with the level of community impact. And social distancing remains a key mitigation strategy. But at the same time, I certainly understand that other districts have started to look at that. And I will tell you that we will also look at that as we progress through this pandemic. But as we return to school in person now, We are returning with 6 feet as our prevailing standard, and that is based on the national and state guidance. And we'll continue to work with our health department locally and at the state to help inform us on additional strategies that we may employ to maximize in-person learning. So let's take another call. Caller, welcome to the Return to School Town Hall.
Hello, thank you for taking my call.
Thank you. Welcome.
I understand roughly the county is looking to hire about 960 classroom monitors at about $15.72 an hour. My rough math suggests that that's $400 and some odd $1,000 a week. So I have a couple of questions. How is the county going to pay for that? And now that vaccinations are possible, while I realize the CDC isn't tying return to school to it, but now that vaccination is possible, will the county be readdressing the over 2,300 reasonable accommodations it had already granted to try to reduce the spend on these classroom monitors? Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. I know monitors has become a topic for our community. And first of all, our monitors are very valuable. They've helped us return more of our students to in-person instruction, to be back in schools with their friends, with their colleagues, and with staff. And I also want you to know we have worked on finding the dollars to support monitors through the saving in our substitute program. This year, we did not, in a virtual world, put a substitute in the first 2 days of absence from a teacher. Students did asynchronous instruction based on lesson materials the teacher provided. So we've been able to redirect existing dollars, not new money, to be able to make our monitors work. We remain in a careful balance of respecting and caring for the needs of our students along with our staff. And the ADA, the American with Disabilities Act, is a federal law that has an iterative process for each individual teacher as we look at their accommodations. We'll continue to work with them as we progress through this year and as we plan for next year. Many of our teachers are beginning to reach out to their principals and express a desire to return from virtual to in-person instruction, or teachers who are on leave of absences to return to Fairfax County Public Schools full-time. And we'll work on communicating that to the community in the weeks and months ahead. A lot has gone on in just the last few weeks around returning to school in person, and we're going to continue to do everything we can to make our students and staff have a smooth transition. I do want to bring Dr. Floyd, you in at W.T. Woodson. All of our schools have been given a allotment of monitors. Talk a little bit about the value that they bring to support your return to school in person.
Sure, thank you. Our monitors are a tremendous resource for us. The monitors are allowing our teachers who have an ADA accommodation to remain virtually at home, and the monitors become the hands and feet of those individuals in the school building. And so they are able to not just sit in a classroom with students, but they're supervising them. They are implementing the crisis management plans. They are helping students have the resources that they need to be successful during that school day. And so without those monitors, we would not be able to make this in-person piece of the puzzle work to allow our students to come back and have this experience at school.
No, that's great, and it's so good. You know, too, our monitors really have the opportunity to be potential future teachers or staff members or instructional assistants in Fairfax County Public Schools, and it's been great to see so many of them step up. I think you were telling me a story about that.
Yes, we have a few monitors actually who are either in teacher education programs or are looking to switch careers into teaching, and so we're affording them the opportunity to not only work with different populations of high schoolers, but also different subject areas, and so they're able to get their feet wet and really see where their passion is and where they want to go. And we're able to also connect them with George Mason's education program as well.
That's great. That's great. Let's take another call. Phone caller, welcome to the Return to School Town Hall.
Thank you. Given the priority the teachers have had to receive vaccines earlier, is it reasonable for students who will be in school for instruction to expect that pretty much all of their teachers are going to be in school in the classroom as well versus them watching on a camera? And if not, I have a follow-up question.
Yes. First of all, many of our teachers are returning to school. The great number of our teachers are turning. We have probably about 15,000 teachers, and a couple of thousand teachers have ADA accommodations. We are following federal law, and I'm committed to following all of our local, state, and federal laws and creating a caring culture that recognizes the needs of our staff. These are not just, these accommodations, again, are iterative process, but are based on qualifying criteria for why an individual would receive an accommodation. It's not just because I would prefer to remain virtual. Teachers had preferences back in the summer to remain virtual, and those preferences were not able to be honored. The only accommodations we are honoring are what we call our Tier 1, which are those individuals that have had medical documentation around returning for in-person learning. We're continuing to work with them one-on-one as we go through this year and as we plan for next year. And I believe that we will see many of them returning from their virtual to in-person instruction. Let's take another call. Caller, welcome to the Return to School Town Hall.
Hello, I had a question. I understand parents' interest and want to have their children back into the school. My question is, are we going to ask our community to help support, maintain the security, safety, and health of the staff and the students in the building by asking them that if they're going to do something like host a party with a lot of kids, or allow their children to go to a party with a lot of other students, or if they were going to go travel and for whatever the reason is and come back, that they're going to follow the CDC guidelines and keep their children at home for a week before having them come back into the building.
Yes, you know, thank you, Cara. It's such a great partnership that we need to do with the community. Schools are not the only part of the puzzle to helping make sure that COVID transmission is low. When kids are in school, we need to do our very best at following those school mitigation strategies. But as you said, we do need parents to join with us in the community to do those things, to mask wear, to be very responsible about limiting travel to only essential travel, to being careful about the mixing of groups and beyond your family household. And we have asked and will continue to ask our parents to partner with us. I also want to share, in terms of partnership, something that's very important. As we return to school in person, parents, please do not send your child in as you go down that health questionnaire checklist for COVID if you answer yes to any of those questions. We cannot have sick children returning to our schools in person and being a potential transmitter of any sickness, and particularly COVID-19. So please continue to partner with us. Yes, we will continue to put the message out that this is a joint responsibility. And we are very excited that we have vaccinations here and more on the horizon. But many, many, many more people need to be vaccinated. And we know that vaccinations for our children are still farther out on the horizon. So we're all going to have to continue to focus on those key mitigation strategies to keep us all safe. Caller, let's take another phone call. Welcome to the Return to School Town Hall.
Thank you, Dr. Brabrand. This is actually Teddy from Woodston. How are you doing?
Hi, Teddy. How are you? Well, hey, your principal's here.
Oh, hi, Dr. Ford. Yeah, my question is very simple, very quick. I just wanted to know, what are you and FCPS doing to facilitate graduations later in the spring?
Yeah, thank you, Teddy. Dr. Floyd, you want to take that one, or you want me to help you with the first piece?
Well, I mean, I know what we want to do.
Why don't you tell them what you want to do, and then I'll share a little bit after that.
We very much want, from a principal perspective, to have our students walk across the stage in a traditional graduation ceremony, if at all possible. And if that's facilitated at Constitution Hall or Eagle Bank Arena at George Mason, that's great. Or if it is facilitated on our football fields, that would be great too. We want to be able to celebrate that moment with our seniors this year.
So I want you to know, as superintendent, that we want to work very closely with you and your high school principal colleagues to do everything we can to have as near a normal or near normal graduation that follows all the guidelines for our seniors in the class of 2021. I absolutely understand how our community feels about this. One of the things that we're waiting to watch is the governor's executive order is due to expire. I think it's Executive Order 72 that had some limitations about the number of folks for outside gatherings. I think that number right now is capped at 250. And we're going to be watching and trying to work with the governor in a responsible fashion, but to look at whether there can be some additional flexibility to having larger gatherings, especially if we're able to have some social mitigation strategies in place. And I know we've already been talking to high school principals about how that could be done inside an arena or inside Constitution Hall or in other venues at Eagle Bank. So we'll continue to keep the community updated and we are going to do everything we can to try to have a graduation that is as near as normal as possible. So let's take another call. Caller, welcome to Return to School Town Hall.
Hello.
Hi,
Can you hear
welcome.
me?
Yes.
Hi, how are you, Dr. Brabrand? This is Roseanne.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Is there a delay here?
No, we can hear you fine.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, first of all, I want to thank you for everything you're doing. This is Herculean. I've watched you throughout all of this. It's 24/7, and it's a lot. It's a lot on you. It's a lot on the board. It's a lot on your community and the families, and of course the kids. This is an odd question, and I'm just going to throw this one out there. So I have 2 young children in elementary school. They are obviously home learning online. My husband and I are at home working full-time. My background is in leadership development. This is all I do. I help large organizations deal with change management, communication, crisis management, so on and so forth. I would love to work with you all directly for free in any capacity to help move the needle on this. Is there any ability in this crazy time to allow for some sort of, I don't even, like an advisory committee to the board, sit on the board, something on the board, anything from the perspective of leadership development, change management? Has that been given any thought? I've emailed but not heard back, and I'm just here offering free consulting when you need it. Is that an option?
Well, thank you. You know, I've learned in this business that it's always trying to figure out, never say no, and how when we can get to yes, we could. So I'll certainly try to work to have the folks who gotten your number tonight to get that to me in a way that we can connect and talk about ideas. I do want you to know, though, that I am very excited to share with you, and I shared with the community just a few weeks ago, I've hired a new executive director for our Office of Communications and Community Relations, who brings a wealth of experience here in the Northern Virginia area, but frankly, across a long career, has had outstanding, award-winning work done in media relations and communication and strategic communications, including crisis communications. And you will begin to see some different work around our communication strategies and getting the word out to all of our constituencies and getting the word out timely, promptly, and with the key messages. One of the things I'm really excited to share with you all tonight is our communications office already is debuting something in just a few more days called En Pocas Palabras, which is a new newsletter in Spanish to really reach out to our Latino families who many times feel have not been able to get the information as real time. I've done a few Spanish town halls, and I know I need to do even more beyond just those groups. So we'll work to reach out, and simply I'll also say thank you for your comments. We're all here to serve. I'm a servant leader. and we're here to serve our community. We're all ultimately responsible to you and all of the taxpayers, all of the residents, but we're all here about investing in our kids and our community. You came here for great schools. Fairfax County Public Schools is a great school system. We still have things that we can do to do better, and this pandemic has pushed us to really look at how we can go above and beyond and how to redesign systems that really sometimes have not worked for all students and all parents. So thank you very much for that call, and I look forward to following up with you. Let's take an email question, which is, can you explain why it was changed to have high school students report back to school prior to grades 3 through 6? Yes, I can tell you a little bit about that. The return to school schedule was a measured phased-in schedule, and we really worked, particularly at our elementary level, to make sure that we phased in kids and gave them the appropriate time and training to really understand those school mitigation strategies and have our staff have the confidence of working with our youngest kids. And so we did have a little difference in the schedule of maybe about 1 or 2 weeks, and that's why those kids are coming back. It's also true that in terms of monitors, our greatest need for monitors actually remains in grades 3 through 6, and we wanted to make sure we had time to get all of those monitors hired. We have a job fair, by the way, coming up just later in the next week or so, and really hope many of you will come to the job fair to look at all the positions in Fairfax County Public Schools, including monitors. Let's take another phone call. Caller, welcome to the town hall.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Hi, I'm wondering what's going to be done for kids who've really regressed a lot during this pandemic with virtual learning, plan for like extending the school year into the summer or helping them make up what the time that they've lost.
Great. You know what? I wanted to see, Ms. Scarborough, we'll start with you. As a teacher, have you all at Colvin Run begun to think about what are some of the additional interventions that you may be able to do for the remaining of the school year? We've already talked to the school board about summer programs like Bridge to Kindergarten, Bridge to First Grade, expanding our summer school into a 5th quarter, which is really particularly important at the high school level. What are some things, though, beyond those summer programs that you all are looking at doing to help students who may have been more adversely impacted by being virtual during these last few months?
So I know that for our counseling team, which we have a wonderful team of just 2 ladies, they are in communication constantly with each other as well as with our administrators of different activities and things that they can do with the students in a virtual setting to bring together a variety of students, not just in one particular grade, but even cross grade wise. For different activities, including your social emotional piece, as well as just some extracurricular things, just like game nights and different things like that. I know that our PTO is also still in the process of deciding and communicating what activities they can pull together as well, so that we can get back to more of the familiar activities and just thinking about how we can incorporate those items and those events, you know, in a safe environment, and also by including as many people as possible.
Dr. Floyd, I know with the high school, our high schools have intervention periods, and all of our secondary schools do too. Can you talk a little bit about what's happening, not at the elementary level, but at secondary level, about providing some interventions for kids who may be struggling?
Sure. We are using our intervention period in order to reach out to students in the small group setting, even if it's online, virtually, to be able to engage students in relearning some material that they might not have gotten. A lot of times students are more receptive to a much smaller group setting with the teacher where it's much more targeted on specific skills. And so coming during that 3rd period, even if it's online, they're more willing to because they're targeting a very specific skill. We're also doing some home visits as well, some front porch visits in order to really connect with the kids and let them know that we are looking forward to seeing them back at the school. We've invited some students to be able to come in and access the school building who are having internet issues, even with the MiFi issues, due to sometimes the home environment situations. And so we're looking forward to creatively utilizing that third period and after school time. I've even had some of my teachers ask if they could do Saturday mornings in order to really reach the kids who might not have been as engaged on the internet in a full class setting. Sometimes the smaller classes, very skills-based, very specific standards that the students and the staff can focus on is a more successful way than the 30 students in a class virtually type of classroom.
Right. Well, thank you. And it's so good that all of the secondary schools are committed to that intervention time and finding ways to really support kids who are going to need it as they return to school in person, and even some of those kids that will remain virtually, as Ms. Scarborough said, and will virtually continue to have a commitment to bringing them in and engaging them in a virtual fashion. So let's take another call. Caller, welcome to Return to School Town Hall. Hi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for taking my question. I actually have two questions. As of today, do you have a solid plan for 5 days in-person return to school? And if yes, when it will be presented to a school board? And if not, why not? And my second question is, why does STPA from the beginning involve itself into providing virtual education when Virginia already have virtual education available for families who want to learn distance? And in addition to that, there are numerous other options for virtual education in Virginia, like NOVA, hundreds of homeschooling programs, Johns Hopkins University excellent virtual programs, while families who want to be in person have zero options.
Well, thank you, caller, for your call. I want to share a couple of things with you. First of all, we are returning to school in person. We are following the CDC and the Virginia Department of Health guidelines that say 6-foot social distancing wherever possible is the standard. We do aspire to move to 5-day in-person learning as we look to the next school year. But we are going to continue to have a measured, phased-in approach following the latest health guidance, and we'll continue to look and work with our local health department as we make those decisions. So we all want to be back in school, and we're in the middle of doing that. And I know, of course, the next question that anybody would ask, well, gosh, can we get that to 5 days? It is our aspiration to return to 5 days of in-person learning. But like everything else in this pandemic, we are going to do it in a measured approach, working with our local health department and using the latest information and guidance that we have from our local state health authorities. So I appreciate that question. I also want to just answer something about the virtual piece. Why not just hand it over to state or national virtual partners? And here's the bottom line. Lots of these other alternatives, while they work for some kids, do not work for all kids. Many of these alternatives are more asynchronous than the face-to-face synchronous instruction that we have been providing. Teacher-led instruction has been the forefront of our virtual approach. We also have additional special education and English language learner supports and our virtual learning that simply don't exist. And we are working to have an equity lens on all the work that we do to make sure that we have options that work for all of our kids. We're going to continue to partner with Virtual Virginia as we look at folks still wanting additional virtual opportunities, even as we approach this coming year. And we have our online campus at the high school level. We recognize, too, that virtual learning may still be an option that some families ask for, and we will continue, as we have, to provide some opportunities for that as well. And I know, Dr. Floyd, you want to make a couple of comments, too, around this.
With that said, the caller had mentioned like Johns Hopkins and Nova and George Mason, and we do have partnerships with our local community college and colleges locally where our high school students can take classes. And many of our students at the high school level do take the classes. And we encourage our parents to talk with the school counselors in order to see what options might be out there in order to work with those local colleges and universities for extra credit opportunities.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Floyd. And I'm glad we're continuing to have those partnerships. I know actually we've expanded with Nova Community College more opportunities for dual enrollment than ever before, so kids can not only get high school credit, but that valuable college credit when we're in an economic, not just a health crisis, but an economic crisis that really has impacted many of our families financially. So I want to thank Dr. Ann Kress, president of NOVA, for her partnership with Fairfax County Public Schools, and we will continue to expand that partnership in the weeks and months and years ahead. Let's take another call. Caller, welcome to the Return to School Town Hall.
Well, thank you so much for taking my call. I'm really pleased that there is a return to school option for students in the near future, but I'm concerned that FCPS mitigation guidelines do not appear to include testing. And so much virus transmission is caused by asymptomatic individuals. You mentioned that you'll be monitoring outbreaks. How will that happen? And is there discussion about random testing of a small group of students each week, or requiring students to show proof of a COVID-19 negative test before returning to school? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. You know, we certainly have talked testing. We don't have our health department with us today. Well, we've talked to the health department about testing, and that is one of the strategies that we continue to look at. And we know that the new administration in their return to school plan is looking at additional dollars for testing as an option. And we will certainly be looking at that and what resources could be provided to do that. Testing, as you note, is expensive. It has been one of the things that testing capacity has been a challenge in our community and throughout the country. And so we've worked very carefully with the health department as best we can with all of the strategies available to us. But we'll continue to look at testing as one of the options. And we know that there may be more coming from the federal government to support us with additional testing abilities here in Fairfax County Public Schools. And we'll certainly work with the health department and see what the national plan may be around surveillance testing and other testing opportunities as we continue to move forward with more in-person learning. Let's take another call. Caller, welcome to the Return to School Town Hall.
Yes, my question is, how will you ensure that the schools are, being sanitized, and how many times a day will it be? And in regards to vaccination, will you be encouraging students to get vaccinated with the vaccine for coronavirus?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, we really have done a great job with our custodial teams. Actually, Dr. Floyd, I'd like you to come up as principal because you run a big school. Lots of kids are going to be coming in. Talk a little bit about what the safety, your custodial staff is doing around those safety and sanitation measures to keep the school as clean as possible.
Sure. Our custodial staff is incredibly busy. They are around the building all day long, cleaning the high-touch areas, so doorknobs during classes. They're cleaning the doorknobs, stairwells, the railings. They are cleaning desks in the cafeterias. They are all over the place, anything that you can imagine. Our restrooms are being cleaned on a regular schedule multiple times a day. And in a huge school, that's a lot of cleaning to do, but they are committed to keeping everyone safe. And to answer the question about the hand sanitizers, we do have a huge amount of hand sanitizers in every classroom, and students are asked to hand sanitize upon entering and exiting the classrooms.
Excellent, excellent. I want to thank our custodial staff who really have gone above and beyond. And we continue to have safety teams at our school that are going in and providing feedback to all of our staff and students around those school mitigation strategies. We know those strategies are the key to making sure that we keep COVID transmission in schools very, very rare. I want to just answer the other question around vaccination of our young people. We certainly want to respect the rollout by the federal and state government with the prioritized groups. And we do hope that as we move through this vaccination process, I hope over the months ahead that we can, for the approved vaccinations, get as many of our young people who are eligible to take a vaccination to be vaccinated. And I am hoping to hear more from our state and federal officials as we get more vaccinations on the market about how schools can partner to vaccinate as many of our young people as possible. I know, you see some media stories out there that that's still way on the horizon, but I want to do everything as a school superintendent, and I know every school superintendent in the country would love to see all of its staff and all of its students. But we need to have the science and the medicine support the vaccination process with our young people, and we'll do everything we can. And I am here to do everything I can to support that happening in the months ahead. Let's take another call. Caller, welcome to the town hall. Actually, we have an email. First, I want to change my child's return status. Am I able to do this? Dr. Floyd, I'm going to turn to you. What are we doing as families come to this decision about returning in person or remaining virtual, or maybe someone who was in person and now would prefer to stay virtual for reasons? How are we handling that in schools?
Sure. Families are encouraged to call the school counselor and have that conversation as to their desire to change from one to the other. And for students who wish to go from in-person to virtual, it's an easy switch to make. Going from virtual to in-person is a little bit more of a challenge because all of our classrooms have capacity restrictions to them. And so if I have a classroom that already has 13 students in it, and that's the capacity, then we can't add another student to that classroom. And we've made all of our plans based on the survey that was done in December or in the fall. And so we have all of our classrooms done, all of our classrooms ready to go. And so if we can fit another student into all 8 of their classrooms over the course of their 2 days, then we're more than happy to. But if we can't, then unfortunately, due to that restriction on the capacity with the 6 feet, then we unfortunately have to say no to those.
Well, we'll certainly do the best that we can, and we'll do it as capacity allows.
Absolutely.
So let's take another call. Caller, welcome to the Return to School Town Hall.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Hi, I had a question or a concern, I guess, about the new grading policy with the 50% getting put in for kids to the lowest they can get is the 50%. So I know a lot of schools are seeing kids who had Fs now have Cs and Ds. So they're gonna, we continue on this path past the end of the year. So my concern is we are now going to be passing kids in classes onto the next level that they're not prepared for. In particular, our skill-based classes where they build our foreign languages and our math. So what is the school system going to be doing to address these concerns? Because we're going to have kids not prepared for the next class and won't be successful, and teachers won't be able to address every single need while still trying to get the curriculum covered.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Well, first of all, we want to recognize that our students have really worked to elevate their voice in this pandemic, and they have spoken clearly to say, please, adults, listen to us, and grading flexibility has been one of the issues. Kids that maybe early on or through something that's happened at home or just the trauma of the pandemic get a couple of zeros and it becomes impossible. It takes 7 A's to take a 0 back up to an A or B grade. That's too deep of a hole for a child, and it's not fair. Many districts across the country eliminated zeros as part of grading years ago, and frankly, it is the time for Fairfax County Public Schools to catch up and have an equitable grading policy that recognizes this fact of the 100-point grading system. I really want to thank all of you for being here today. Fran, Ms. Lewandowski, thank you for coming, and thank you for all the work that social workers are doing. Ms. Scarborough, thank you for getting to pilot the in-person and now getting ready in just another week or two to have all of your kindergartners back who want to be back in person. We're excited, and thank you, Dr. Floyd, for your leadership as principal. really all of you all are heroes, the teacher, the support staff, the principals, getting ready. We're just as excited. All of us are here tonight to say we are excited to begin returning all of our students who desire to return to school in person to be there. We are hopeful, we're excited. The welcome mat is rolled out for you, and we look forward to continuing to support you as you return to school in person, as well as continuing to support those families whose children remain virtual. And we are going to continue to do our very best to meet every child by name and by need here in Fairfax County Public Schools during this pandemic, and yes, beyond this pandemic. And the beginning of the end of this pandemic is at hand. Hope is on the way, help is on the way, and we are ready to begin a new chapter in Fairfax County Public Schools with renewed focus, with renewed support for every one of our students, for every one of our staff, and to take this school system to the next level. So thank you all for being here tonight. We look forward to seeing you virtually or in person in the days and weeks ahead. And we hope to see you at our next Return to School Town Hall. We will continue to have these throughout the rest of the year. And we thank you for your time tonight. Stay safe, and we will talk to you again soon. Have a great evening, everyone.